this video, I'm going to show you some of the process of creating these two Charles Bronson illustrations while recommending some of his films and trying to deal with difficult second video syndrome. So if that sounds like something you're into, sit back, relax, and prepare to lose several minutes of your life. So here we are, second video, second proper art vlog, sophomore effort, the difficult second album. Obviously I'm being facetious when I talk about a difficult second video. Historically, the difficult second album comes off the back of a successful debut. Well, in this case, at the time of recording this voiceover, I think my first video has roughly 2 views. So I can't say there's much anxiety about living up to expectations. Also, the reality is, if you ever see this video, if the algorithmic gods ever offer it up to you, it'll be out of sequence. So, me saying this is the second video probably means nothing. I still like to maintain the illusion that there's a sequential narrative occurring. This is part of an episodic YouTube art vlog journey. I was actually thinking about the last Lee Marvin video, where I probably spent too much time sort of setting the table and talking about the manifesto for this channel, if we'll call it that, I probably sold Lee a wee bit short. You know, didn't over elaborate on his movies so much. But then I thought, no, you don't want to oversell things anyway. You just want to make a suggestion, and then people can make up their own minds and they can check these things out at their leisure. You know, because sometimes you over-egg, you oversell these things, it can be a bit off-putting. So anyway, with that in mind, I think I'm going to pick this week, 3 movies to recommend, 3 top recommendations for Charles Bronson films for you to check out. So the first film I'm going to mention is Farewell Friend. Well, actually, it's probably worth noting that these 3 films, you can sort of group them together. They actually, chronologically, they come out 1 year after the next. And on the back of these 3 movies, it sort of completely changed Charles Bronson's career. Whereas previously he was always a sort of a co-star or part of an ensemble cast and things like The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, you know, smaller roles, background roles. After these 3 movies, he became a leading man. They sort of catapulted him to superstardom in Europe, which in turn led to him becoming the biggest box office star in America. So, yeah, the first movie is 1968. It's a French-Italian co-production, I think. Farewell Friend, co-starring legendary French actor Alain Delon. It's a heist movie. Well, it's an unconventional heist movie, shall we say. you could make an argument that some of his American output, that he's made better movies, Death Wish or Walter Hill's Hard Times or something, but I really like this movie, I think. And I think it's an interesting jumping off point, just, for what it means to his career, that it kick-started his leading man status. And again, both he and DeLon give us sort of a masterclass in screen charisma. There's large chunks of the movie where it's just the two of them sitting around interacting with one another, and they're always engaging. I'm sort of reluctant to talk about the plot too much, lest I'd spoil it. But if you like heist movies or crime movies in general, it's definitely worth a look. Farewell, friend. The next pick is another French production. It's a film called Rider on the Rain from 1970. Bronson stars here opposite Eva Green's mammy, Marlene Joubert. It might also be worth noting that there's two versions of Rider on the Rain. As I say, it was a French production, but they shot one version in English and one version in French. I think the English version's the only version I've seen, but I believe Charles Bronson does the French phonetically in that version as well, so he's not dubbed in the French version. It's his voice, but don't hold me to that. I think that's the case though. Again, this is sort of a character that Bronson plays really well, or an archetype that he plays throughout his career. And it's it's either a morally ambiguous or dubious or morally compromised character who still manages to be likeable and charming. That smile, those glinting narrow eyes, and his natural charisma sort of endears him to the audience, even when he's playing, as I say, morally dubious characters. And in this film, without, this is a mystery, so I don't want to go too much into the plot in this movie, but he's sort of an antagonist for large parts of this film. But he does it so well that you're always sort of on his side a wee bit. Even though as the audience, our sympathies and with Marlene Joubert's character, we still like Charles Bronson, and I think that's something he did throughout his career in these kind of roles, and he was very, very good at. That sort of charming, enigmatic figure. So, as I say, I don't want to go too much into the plot of this movie. It starts with a home invasion and an assault on Joubert's character, which ends in Joubert killing her attacker and disposing of his body. And then Bronson turns up to tell her that a body's been found and he thinks she's responsible. Mystery and intrigue ensues. It's stylish, well shot, and well directed, and it's definitely worth your time. Rider in the Rain, 1970. So, in between Farewell Friend and Rider in the Rain, we got probably one of the greatest westerns ever made. Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West, with Charles Bronson playing the enigmatic, mysterious harmonica. This isn't what you'd call an unknown movie or a rare pick, but it's surprising that, Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I think everybody sort of, even to this day, still carries weight and name recognition. But surprisingly, there's still people who, although they might love The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, haven't actually seen Once Upon a Time in the West, which is, arguably as good. Well, it's definitely as good, but it's arguably even better than Good and the Bad, the Ugly. On any given day, I could go back and forth which I think is the better film, but Once Upon a Time in the West is a masterpiece. Again, this isn't just, it's not only Bronson carrying the water on this film. You've got Jason Robards, Henry Fonda, Claudia Cardinal. You got Morricone's amazing score, and you've got Sergio Leone's immaculate direction. It's a brilliant story. It's just a great, great film. Even if you're not really into westerns, I suppose I should say as well, I would consider it one of the greatest westerns ever made, but there's hardcore western fans who can't conceive a world where spaghetti westerns or non-American made westerns could be classified as real westerns. I'm not as rigid or as anal about those sort of things, so to me it's a classic, and it is one of the greatest westerns ever made. Yeah, so that's your trifecta of movie recommendations that sort of started Bronson on the path to superstardom. I suppose we could do honourable mentions then, for maybe cover some of the American stuff. Obviously, stuff like that I mentioned already, like the Great Escape and Magnificent Seven. They're good movies, or great movies, but Bronson's not a huge part of those films. But off the back of that European success, he came back to America and he started getting star vehicles. So probably my favourite of those movies is The Mechanic. Yeah, The Mechanic's a great one. It's been a while since I watched it, actually, and I must actually go back and watch it. But it's got an opening sequence, no dialogue, maybe for the first, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes of the movie. It's got a fantastic opening sequence. Bronson stars with John Michael Vincent of Airwolf fame as a sort of a hitman, and John Michael Vincent is his trainee heir apparent. There's a kind of an undercurrent of, would you say, Asian influence, a kind of a samurai influence to the whole thing. I think Bronson practiced martial arts in the movie, and There's that kind of honor code type thing in it. Yeah, it's just a really good movie. If you enjoyed Farewell Friend and you wanted to see Alan Delon and Charles Bronson together again, you could check out Red Sun, which adds to the Delon Bronson axis. It adds the mighty Toshiro Mifune, the legendary Japanese actor. Again, that's a period piece western. Obviously, Mifune, if you're familiar with his work, he made all those amazing movies with Akira Kurosawa. He's a powerhouse actor, but his forays into the American market probably didn't really do him justice. Outside of Red Sun and Hell in the Pacific, which I brought up in the previous video dealing with Lee Marvin, both those films sort of captured more of the power and magic of Mifune. So yeah, Red Sun's a good choice. And I suppose now I've mentioned Lee Marvin, we might as well add Dirty Dozen to that. Another film called, I think it's called Death Hunt in America. I think it's Yukon over here. Carl Weathers plays a small role in that movie as well. Yeah, so Dirty Dozen and Death Hunt should provide a nice double bill of Lee Marvin, Charles Bronson, monosyllabic tough guy action. And then we have the aforementioned Death Wish and Hard Times. Obviously not the Bruce Willis remake of Death Wish, but the original Michael Winner directed Charles Bronson version. There's a battle of sequels as well for Death Wish. I think the second one's alright, but I can't vouch for the quality of the rest of them. Hard Times, I feel sort of a lot of fondness for Walter Hill movies. I've always liked Hard Times. If you're familiar with the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, AWOL, or Lionheart, as it's named in America, it takes a lot of cues from Hard Times. Charlie plays a Depression era bare knuckle boxer. Yeah, so that's your Charles Bronson recommendations. I don't have any book recommendations. There's not enough Charles Bronson inspired graphic novels out there, or at least none that I'm aware of. If you know of some, do let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's the second video down. If you made it this far, my thanks to you. And as always, if you're a fan of the Charles Bronson or you like the illustrations in this video, there'll be a small number of prints available on my Etsy store, which I'll leave a wee link for in the description. And if you watch any of the movies I recommended in this video, or you've got any recommendations of your own, stick them in the comments. And I'll try to be back soon with a new video. So I'll talk to you anon. Bye for now.